I believe in death with dignity, don't you? At least in the abstract. Grace, nobility, even beauty. As abstract as that. As abstract as other people. As abstract as characters in fiction. All anyone wants is a good death, I read. This is in a short story. It's a prize-winning story. A story about a nurse who is dying of cancer. She is graceful, noble, and even beautiful. I hate the story. I hate stories about people dying of cancer, no matter how graceful, noble, or beautiful. When I read the author's note, I learn that he is an administrator in the famous cancer center where I am enduring chemotherapy, and the news that I am going to die very shortly. This is what I say to his story. I do not want your good death. This is what I say to his biography. You make your living off other people's deaths. This is what I insist. I am not your story. If I were constructing this as a story, with myself as the protagonist, I would not only be dignified, I would be brave and beautiful, courageous and kind, humorous and honorable. I would enshrine myself in narrative. But this cannot be a success because the elements of narrative are corrupted. There is no beginning. The beginning is not diagnosis. The beginning is before that. Before the suspicions, before the reconstructed past when one began to feel this or that, before everything except a tiny cell that got twisted and frisky. The absence of the beginning is compounded by the middle collapsing into the past. Everything is end. There are those who argue that cancer is ancient, prevalent now because other diseases have been cured and humans live longer and unconnected to environmental degradation. My body knows differently. But who is there to blame? Industrialization? Capitalism? Corporate greed? Anger is the second stage of dying in the classic work of Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She notes that dying can cause a usually dignified person to act furious, but with a bit of tolerance by the caregivers, the patient's anger can be soothed. Dying people, above all, want to be heard. I do not want to be heard. I do not want to talk. I want to live. My first decision about dying is that I will die at home. The winter sun will be weak, but brilliant, sifting through my window, refracting through a prism I have had since I was young. Then the light will fade, leaving only a slat of brilliant pink. Twilight was once my favorite time of day. My second decision about dying is that I won't. It first appears on my horizon as a question. What if? What if I refuse to die? I am neither stupid nor naive and know that it isn't a simple matter of choice. Nevertheless, my aspiration persists. The first stage of dying is denial. Ask anyone who has read Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, or who has not. Still, what if I refuse to cooperate? The manifestations of my resistance are illogical and small. I refuse to talk to my oncologist, who warned me about depression. Depression, the fourth stage of dying, is the preparatory grief that the terminally ill patient has to undergo in order to prepare himself for his separation from this world. If I were talking to her, I would tell her I'm not depressed, although I may seem defeated, decimated. I am simply deep. I am inside myself so deeply the world is an abstraction. I cannot bridge the distance between myself and everyone else, including the ones I love most. The ones I said I loved more than life itself. Now, this is no longer true. My death is only my own. No matter the connection, no matter the love, no matter that I came from the bodies of my parents or that my child came from my body. Each body lives separately and dies separately. Perhaps I knew this before. In the abstract. I am popular in my dying. People I have not heard from in several years call me. Is there anything you want to say to me, she asks. She is crying. My mother died of cancer, he says to me. You must think this is an expression of empathy. You have always meant so much to me, she blurts. She does not stumble over the past tense. I never respond. I must think I am being dignified. Someone actually tells me this. I really admire the way you are conducting yourself with such dignity, she says to me. I'm not. Well, it seems like that to us, she persists. That's not the way it seems to me. I prove I can still argue. She smiles as if she thinks I am being modest. I am not. I'm trying to be honest. I'm all claws and sobs and vomit. I'm small and getting smaller. I am barefoot and bald. I'm more tired than tired. How could she not see that when she looks at me? But she does see that, despite the dignity. When she looks at me, she sees I am dying. And when I look at her, I see my dying reflected back at me, an abyss of pity. I'm grateful for the ones who do not pity me, or at least who do not show their pity. We've written letters for almost 20 years. When I write to tell her the news that I am dying, I ask her to try to write to me as she always has, to write to me about her life and what she is reading. She writes me every day. Every single day. Beautiful, exquisitely boring letters about her job or what she ate for breakfast or something she hopes will be amusing. I live for her letters. She brings me books from the library when I can't get there myself. Novels, I tell her, from the new fiction section. Maybe I believe I can save myself through reading, or at least escape. Although soon I stop reading fiction. I know she is screening the selections, but death penetrates the pages. Sometimes it is in the prize-winning story. Sometimes it is there casually and without warning. It seems there is always a convenient cancer death in the background somewhere, even if only in a character's memory. In novels, they never recover. Loss, grieving. But life goes on. I close the book and reach for the next one. Soon, I'm requesting biographies. As if I'd forgotten that the person in the biography is going to die. As if I didn't know somehow that Rachel Carson died at 57 of cancer. She hid it from the world. Perhaps she was trying to be dignified. Desperation is not dignified. Perhaps that is why Kubler-Ross does not name desperation as a stage. There is bargaining, the third stage, but she gives it short shrift. She theorizes it as a belief in a reward for good behavior. She does not seem to understand the will to live. It propels me into alleys of alternative healing, alternative theories, alternatives. I visualize and vitaminize. I spread myself on the floor of an apartment in Chinatown so that a man can bruise my flesh as a way of clearing my meridians. I meditate. There are those who argue that cancer is a message. Appreciate the beauty of each moment. The moments most often invoked are populated with children. What could be more precious than the kiss of a toddler? Never mentioned are the moments in which I am managing to live. The moments, long and slow, during which I am dizzy and puking red on the bathroom floor, trying to appreciate the texture and temperature of the tile against my cheek. The moments as panic-filled as fire, when I can feel the chemical burn in my veins and watch the skin on my arm lose all its color. The moments, shallow and distant, when I try to think about anything except what is happening to me. Acceptance is the fifth and final stage of dying. I had thought I had looked at death before. I had seen her dance with the ones I loved to have died. I had suffered my own flirtations. This time, though, death is gazing back. Not just a glance, but a full, seductive stare. As if we are in a bar and I am dressed in black leather, ready for adventure tinged with danger. How alluring to be chosen. This is what she whispers. I can follow her with grace and dignity, or I can resist and it can get ugly. Either way, she will win, she promises me. That is her story. If she writes my story, I will be brave, beautiful, and dignified. The word struggle will be used, but with no incidents of sweating or cursing or thrashing. In her story, it will be as if I have fallen into a deep sleep. As long as I am still able to write, this is my story. I resist the lure of dignity. I refuse to be graceful, beautiful, and beloved. I'm not going to sleep with her. I'm going home, alone. Back to my books, my computer, my visualizations, meditations, and bruised meridians. Back to my bedroom with the prism at twilight. Back to my life.